Spring has sprung. Fojax here, doing day 2, or year 2, of Life is Feudal Forest Village. And here we go. So, if you made it this far, you've clearly made it through year 1, or have achieved some other means of playing the game that I'm not aware of. So, in year 2, we're going to be looking for expansion. So right out of winter, first thing you want to do is put your winter workforce back on the fields. Remember we took them off so we could get them doing labor things for the winter? Well, now you need to put them back on. Mine are already on, they're working away, they're happily doing their thing. You can do that as soon as your temperature hits 0. And again, the sooner they get on those fields and start working them, the better. If you get them right on the field, like right at the beginning of spring, if weather permits, you may actually have enough time to get 2 harvests off of that field. Um, so then you get everyone producing food again, and you start thinking about expanding. During the winter, you should have gathered up some resources. I was planning on doing some terraforming in the winter, but it didn't work out for me so well. I had to learn how to use the terraforming tool, and I figured it'd be a good thing to show in this video anyway, so I want to build a forester's lodge and hunting area and gathering shit up here, but this giant ass slope is in the way. Sometimes this will occur around your spawn. It's annoying. I hope the developers get rid of it. Like, kibosh it completely. Um, so in order for us to get up there, as it stands right now, our people have to walk all the way around, which is a lot of time, a lot of efficiency wasted. So we don't want that. Like I said, inefficiency kills in this game, so what we're going to do instead is build a slope. The slope will level out this ground, allowing the people to walk up it. No, I'm using the wrong tool. I want the slope tool. Slope will flatten out the ground, allowing your people to walk up it, and you will also be able to build roads on it. So it doesn't need to be overly big. It's big enough to accommodate a road. Make it right about there, I figure. Now, once you drag and drop to select your area, you're now choosing the height of the slope, like how exactly it'll look in the end. So, move your mouse down to decrease the level, move your mouse up to increase the level, and we're gonna go right there, then click again, and voila, your slope shall be built. And these terraforming at the start is generally a bad idea, just because it takes time and labor, which usually can't be spared during the beginning, but right now I do have 2 extra guys just chilling, so you know what, I might as well use them. Get some terraforming done, and look at that, we now have a much quicker way of getting into this area. So I'm going to go ahead and build a road up there, because as I said, I'm making that my nature district. Building roads, you have 2 different options for types of roads to build, dirt and stone. Both will increase your people's movement speed. Dirt will increase it more. Dirt is the lowest, stone will increase it more. Myself, I typically go straight for stone, simply because you're gonna want to do it eventually, so you might as well just do it and get it out of the way. It's a bit expensive early on in the game. Well, it's really expensive early on in the game to do this, but in the long run, it's worth it. Because it's done, you don't have to worry about it ever again, and it does give you a significant boost over time. That little bit of boost may not seem significant in the short term, but in the long term, it adds up. More efficiency again. Everything in this game should be directed towards efficiency. And you know what? Seeing as how we're building roads right now, I'm going to build some more. At least one over to the farm. Like so. it onto my other road, move around up here and over here and down there and viola. Damn it! Yeah, that works, I guess. It's not a viola, that's a violin. So, as we're building our roads up here, we're farming, doing all that. This is essentially going to be your summers. The summer cycle is basically you're just watching your people do the things that they're assigned to do. Winter is more for progress. However, once these roads are done, I am going to get my people on gathering up resources, rocks in particular, because as you can see, we just dumped all of our rocks quite literally on the ground. Once we have those resources, I'm going to start building things. You know what, I'm going to start planning those out right now, seeing as how we have nothing else to do but wait anyway. So, first things first, I'm going to go with a forester's lodge. You'll notice when you're placing this thing that it comes with this giant green radius circle around it. That is... holy fucking hell. I need a carpenter's thing soon. That giant green circle is for... it designates the area that your foresters will cut down and plant trees in. This is important because, well, you don't want to place one of these in the middle of town, say, because then you'd have a forest growing in the middle of your town and be very difficult to see things. You don't want to place in an industrial district, either because same thing, it'll grow a bunch of trees, or in the other extreme, it won't have any space to grow and it'll just be a useless building. So you kind of want to keep this separate from your town center. Put it somewhere so that the radius isn't touching your town. So I'm going to put it right about that, right where it's at the top of that ramp, I think. No, that's a lot of walking time. Move it a little bit closer. I'm going to put it right there. Just like that. For now, I'm going to pause this because we don't have the resources for it yet, and I don't want my people using up needed resources or resources that are needed elsewhere right now. Mainly stone. Well, mind you, we have none right now. You know what? No, because I want my people to gather. Before I continue building, I'm going to set my people to gathering, because they might as well be doing that while I'm doing other things. I'm just going to select a huge swath of land and say, go at her, boys. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. It's the wrong expression for the occasion, but I don't give a shit. So, while they're doing that, getting me my stone for my roads, I'm going to build some more things. Here, up in this area, I'm going to kind of make this area its own semi-isolated area so there's less walking time back and forth. Again, the people here eventually will never actually have to leave this area. I'll have warehouses, I'll have barns, I'll have houses. Not a lot of them because I don't want to take up that growing space, but enough of them all just centered around this main district here. And eventually, I'm going to have a caravan stables, which will then transport wood and materials from the warehouses here back to the center of my town, and then my people here will simply have no reason to leave ever. And that again is a great boost to efficiency. That's essentially what a larger town looks like. In the end, well, not in the end, but as you go, it ends up being, I'm placing a warehouse down now beside this thing, it ends up being essentially a bunch of compartmentalized, independent zones of town that are all interconnected by your caravan stable. That brings things to places. Your citizens, with that caravan stable, your citizens never actually have any reason to leave an area if you have a house there for them, because caravan stable can just bring the rest of the required materials in for them. And if they're never leaving the area, then they're being very productive in that area. So I just threw down warehouse directly across from my forester's lodge, because forester's lodge is going to gather wood, which I want stored in the warehouse. I'm also going to pause the warehouse right now. Next, I'm going to put up a gatherer's hut. It's kind of hard to see with all the shrubs and brush and whatnot, but whatever. Put up a gatherer's hut right beside my forester's lodge. Again, the gatherer's hut also has a proximity identical to the forester's lodge, and you should be mindful of that. The only reason I didn't check it is because I know the forester's lodge is far enough away, and I can build the gatherer's lodge even closer anyway, so. Right across from the gatherer's witchamajigger, we're going to build a barn. Right about here. And again, efficiency's sake, barn right across from the food gathering place. I don't know if I placed that down correctly or not. The door might be on the opposite side, whatever. I'm gonna pause that anyway. Pause. Did I also pause the gatherer's hut? I did, cool. Okay, so we've got Forester's Lodge, Warehouse, Barn, Gatherer's Hut. I'm not gonna go with a herbalist hut right now. In my experience, herbalists produce a motherfuckload of herbs in a very short period of time, so if you ever need one, you only will ever need one until your town gets to be sizable. It gets to be pretty sizable. I am also going to put down a hunting cabin here, though, and I'm going to make sure I place that correctly. Hunting cabin here as well. Hunting cabin is kitty corner to the barn, so no travel time there for them, or not much anyway. Now, right in the middle of this whole cluster, I'm going to throw down possibly the most important building of them all, that being the well. I'm going to throw it down, like I said, right in the middle. So it's in the middle of everything, it's close to everyone. I'm going to pause that as well. How are we doing for stone? Our stone's going up, good. Oh, shit. I'm neglecting my crops. Oh no, no second harvest for me this year. Shit. Well, that was a bad oversight on my part. But, anyways, that frees up labor for us. So we're gonna, yeah, why did I pause that? We're gonna switch off our workers on the fields, put them onto labor, and you know what? We're going to start building some of these buildings up here. I'm gonna start with the warehouse. Warehouse first, because I'm not overly desperate for wood right now, so might as well get efficiency going before everything else. If you guys haven't noticed by now, I am very, very, very efficiency centered, or I try to be anyway. Also going to build a small house up here. And then at that point, this little area will be completely self-sufficient. Once it's all manned and working anyway. There we go. So, right now, we're looking at the layout of a future forestry zone. That should be built by the end of next year. Maybe that's being ambitious. Maybe this is going to take 2 years. Bit of a tip, when you're expanding and building, don't expect it to happen overnight, and don't try to force it to happen overnight. You'll end up dumping resources that are needed elsewhere. You'll end up with labor working on places where it should be working elsewhere. It's just, this game isn't a fast game. Don't rush it. In particular with houses, don't build a shitload of houses all at once, or at least I would strongly advise you against it until you have a good amount of experience with the game. The reason for that is because by building houses, you open up room for population growth, and if you get a population explosion before you're prepared for it, before you have the food to manage it, you're fucked. There's no two ways about it. You can't build fields fast enough. You can't build fisheries fast enough. You can't build hunting cabins fast enough before your population simply all starves to death. So population booms are a good thing when you're prepared for it. For instance, the house here is the last thing I'm going to build in this area. Everything else will be built first. We'll have prepared and accommodated for the extra food needed because we'll have both a hunter's lodge and a gatherer's lodge built before we even get the population boom. Population booms are good. You need them. You need to progress like that. But if you don't prepare for them, you're fucked. There's no two ways about it. That will kill you dead very quick. But enough on that. Well, actually, on the same vein, something I haven't built yet, and I really should have, is one of these pyres. It's not really extremely urgent just yet, which is why I haven't built it yet, but I might as well build it right now. The reason I'm building this is because that's what you need to do with your dead people is burn their bodies, otherwise you get infectious diseases, or store them in a crypt, but as far as I'm concerned, this crypt is a bloody waste of space if it only holds 5 people. And pyres can be used over and over and over again indefinitely. However, they only burn one body at a time. So you have to account for that. I don't know, I'll do something like 1 pyre for every 10 population or something like that. If you know you're going to have a big die-off coming, again, that's another one of the cycles, die-off cycle, population boom cycle, etc., etc. If you know you have a big die-off coming, it might be worth your while to build several pyres in preparation for it, because if you have 7 people drop dead of old age in the short period of time and you've only got 2 pyres, well, the 5 corpses that are sitting around waiting to be burnt are gonna fester and create plagues and diseases in your village. So if you know a big die-off is coming, build pyres if it's gonna be a gigantic die-off and you can somehow survive afterwards and you want to prepare for that, I'd go for crypt simply because in that case it's more storage capacity quicker. But here we are now, in the middle of winter. You saw me put builders on over here. I did a stupid and forgot to put the builders on there, so I guess everyone was just kind of chilling while I was explaining. No one's idle right now, which is a good thing. They're all out gathering resources. I want to do more roads, but I'm gonna leave that for summer, I think. Okay, the warehouse is going up. I'm gonna get the barn next. I'm gonna put the barn up next, and I'm gonna do the well at the same time. You know what? We have plenty of labor right now. Shit, it's getting late in the year though. I'm gonna start up the forester's lodge. I didn't think I'd get this much progress on it in one season. I didn't think I'd have this much labor. If I had been thinking and being more efficient in my own habits and mannerisms, I would have had those building right at the start. Derp. Oh well, live and learn. Ooh, I'm almost out of wood though. Live and learn. However, I just spotted that I am dangerously low on wood, so I'm going to gather up a bunch. Well, I guess it's not dangerous anymore. We're coming out of winter, but I'm low on wood, one way or the other. So our warehouse is completed over there. Cool. I might be able to do some work on this in the summer. I'm going to have excess labor. Typically with that excess labor, I'd put them onto food production. Before I'd always put them on food production in the form of a field or a coop or something like that, but I'm trying to lean away from that. And plus, I don't really need extra food production right now. So, I mean, we're still gaining food year by year here. So, that would be, well, we're on to year 3 now. This video is year 2. So I think I'll end it here. But as a summary of what we just did, we started out, we built our expansion, our year 2 expansion. Remember what I said, the theme for year 2 should be expand, not drastically, but a bit. So here's our year 2 expansion. I was a bit late, but zoned out a bit when I was building it, so this in reality should be built by now, or most of it. You should have at least the forester's lodge and the warehouse should be up. Maybe the barn and the hunting cabin as well. I know I originally gave an estimate of 2 to 3 years. I think I was excessive on that. You should definitely be able to get this up. Really, if you wanted to, you'd have this whole thing up in one winter with the population we had working on it anyway. So, year 2 expand. There's your expansion. There's your roads. Roads again become pretty vital. They're the bloodlines of your civ. Dirt and stone. I'd go for stone, straight to stone myself, and just get it done and over with. It's painful, but whatever. It helps, and you only have to do it once. Also now going into the 3rd year, what we're going to want to be looking at is probably putting some production, some people onto the hunting cabin and start getting some meat going. Start producing some food and some hides out of there. And at the same time, in your 3rd year, you're going to deliberately cause a little population boom. Because, as I said earlier, you have to prepare before that, before you do it. We are now prepared, or at least we will be once those buildings are up. And if you look up here at this panel, this breaks down your population to working adults, teenagers, and babies. We have no babies and teenagers, which is a bad thing because it means our population is stagnating right now. This can have terrible, terrible consequences in situations where your people get old. I know it was like this in Life is Feudal, I'm not sure, because I haven't seen it in here, if it's in here. But I know in Life is Feudal, if your people got old, they eventually would stop fucking and not shit out any more kids. And if you didn't have any teenagers or babies already in existence at that time, your population would just come to a dead stop until everyone died of old age, and that was the end. So you want to pay close attention to your population. You want fresh blood. You want to keep fresh blood. And so that being said, the theme of the 3rd year will be population boom. Get some babies happening here. And then that will feed our production. Well, hopefully by the end of the 3rd or 4th year, that production will be able to be, or this entire area, our forestry area, will be entirely manned, including the Forester's Lodge. And we can think about either expanding into an industrial area or into another forestry area. Or maybe at that time we'll look at quarries, stone mines. Clay is probably going to come before that. Something I really want to get going next year, though I've left it too long, is a carpenter's hut and a schoolhouse. Both of those are big boosts to efficiency as well. Schoolhouses educate your citizens. Educated citizens are far more efficient. And carpenter's huts allow you to produce primitive tools. Population without tools is extremely inefficient. And if you look up here, you can see my stockpile of tools is running low. So that is a priority in the next year, for me anyways, because I spaced out about it. So yeah, just a further note about videos going forward. I'm not going to be doing year by year because I'll run out of shit to talk to you about eventually, because it's when it becomes very at a certain point, there's a lot of waiting and a lot of watching your people do things, and you guys don't want to see that, I'm assuming. So eventually, I think what I might do next video, it might be a year 3, 4 video after that, year 5 to 7, or 5 to 10, or something like that. Like, you get what I mean. Or maybe I'll do it in like significant chunks. Year 3, population boom. Year 4 to 7, building caravan stables, something. I'll think of something. Anyway, I've already made this video overly long now. So, it's Fojack signing out. See you guys on the flip side.